Hello there and welcome to the Midday Brief. My name is Kimini Nyamaniam, and over the next 60 minutes here are some stories to expect. The National Health Insurance Authority begins a pilot of biometric registration of subscribers and the issuance of instant biometric ID cards. Also to come, the Chinese embassy engages Ghanaian media over ongoing arrest and repatriation of illegal Chinese miners in the country. The former chief fire officer suspects some malicious persons are behind the recent market fires ahead of final reports to be presented by the American investigation team. So stay with me, because when I return, I'll bring you detail of these stories and many more, including news from across the globe, some sports news as well, over the next 60 minutes. Stay with me. So this morning, the Chinese embassy held a press conference to address the issue of Chinese nationals and illegal mining here in the country. And my colleague Aries Curtis Howard was there and is joining us on the telephone to update us on exactly what came out of the conference. Hello, Curtis. Well, I believe we have lost him. We will put in efforts to raise him again on the telephone line. But earlier today, there was a press conference by the Chinese embassy. It's noted a few things with how these Chinese illegal miners were arrested, and we're still raising Curtis on the telephone line to really give us detail of what went down at the press conference. But in the meantime, farmers in the Upper West region are worried. The rainy season appears to have suddenly ended for them. With very little or no rain in the last few weeks, the farmers say their crops will suffer, with serious implications for the region's food security. A report by Rafiq Salam from Wa.
The seasonal rains began 2 months ago, and with it came heavy winds, destroying properties and displacing thousands of people, but raising the farmers' hope that they can at least expect a bumper harvest. These tractors used to plow the farms will typically be dismantled or packed on stones during the dry season, awaiting the rains. A number of the farmers, based on that optimism, got their tractors to plow until the rain ceased. It's been close to 3 weeks now, and they are still waiting for more rain. But all they get are a few drops and rather very strong winds, which rip off roofs and destroy economic trees. Meanwhile, some farmers who have already plowed their farms are waiting for the next rains so they can sow. Tawfiq Abdul Rahman and Abdullahi Antiku are managers of Big Ajar and Antika farms respectively.
Right now, some fields have been plowed and they're waiting to seed. Without rain, you can't seed. So the moment you left the field for another 2 weeks or 3 weeks without rain, it will weed it. So you need to buy another extra weedicide, which will cost you your input cost, which you were not expecting.
The rains actually started earlier, started somewhere early May, but up to now we are in the middle of June and we don't have rains at all. Even farmers who planted early, the early planting like granules and maize, they are now dying off. So we are worried that if it continues to go this way, it may affect production.
The executive director of Pronet North, Martin Derry, whose outfit is working in the area of food security in the region, also shared his thoughts on the issue.
We need to take off-season farming more seriously and make sure that we put in place infrastructure that enable farmers to farm, especially during the dry season. When, although we don't have rains, if we have irrigation facilities, then we can control the source of water and hopefully we can control the kind of yield that we would get.
The Upper West Regional Director of the Food and Agriculture, Joseph Falong, is however allaying the farmers' fears. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Now, away from that, if you remember, over 160 illegal Chinese miners were arrested and preparing to send them back to their countries. And so this morning, the Chinese embassy held a press conference to address the same issues of Chinese being in our country and mining illegally, subsequently were worrying our environment. Eric Curtis Howard was there and he's joined us on the telephone line. Hello, Curtis.
Kemini.
Right, so what were the issues that came up at the briefing?
Okay, the Chinese ambassador to Ghana, he held a press conference just some few hours ago, and one of the issues that came up was the fact that actually there's a delegation from China in Ghana. They met with the vice president, and they said that yes, they admitted to the fact that their nationals were engaged in illegal mining, and they told the Ghanaian government to go all out to arrest persons engaged in it. But they said it should be done in a humane and mild manner, as they put it, because they said they received reports that some of their nationals were being harassed by the security personnel and other issues. But one issue that really came up was what happens to the Chinese nationals when they are repatriated back to their country. What happens to them? And the Chinese ambassador said he couldn't really answer that question because, according to him, he said that they've not held such discussions with the government of Ghana. So nothing much. He didn't say much about it. That all that he said was that they've not held such discussions with the government of Ghana, and that was it. But the issues that came from the press conference were varied and there were a lot. One of the issues that came up was the fact that the ambassador agreed to the fact that most of the nationals that had come into the country, they came through illegally. They entered the country through illegal means, and he couldn't even provide the data as to the number of Chinese national currency presence in the country. So they were worried that the fact that the illegal mining were going on, and they said they visited a few of the communities, and they saw the extent of damage and the pollution of the water bodies, and they were not too enthused about the situation. But he said, as a measure, what they are doing is that they are advising the nationals to they should know the country, they should abide by the country laws. He said that the 2006 Mining Act of China, of our mining laws, the Ghana mining laws, have been converted into Chinese and have been placed on the Chinese embassy website for the nationals to read. But he expressed a big kind of surprise that he told the issue about illegal mining. So, these were the issues that were raised at the press conference.
Right. Now, you also remember that when this issue of illegal Chinese miners came up, thoughts were divided as to whether the way they are being treated here, the whole entire arrest was going to affect Ghana-China relations. Did the Chinese ambassador touch on that?
Yes, he actually said the issue of the illegal mining is a disharmony to, that's the word he used, it's a disharmony to Ghana-China relations. But he said after, when the delegation met with the vice president, they decided to look at the bigger picture. One thing that came out was that the fact that economic cooperation between Ghana and China dates back some 53 years ago. So they decided to look at the big picture and not allow this issue affect Ghana-China relations. But they said that both parties have made a conscious effort to make sure that they address with the situation so that it wouldn't escalate into any further development. Another issue that came up was the fact that the situation in China, some Chinese were demonstrating last week. We had reports that some Chinese were demonstrating at the Ghanaian embassy in China, and how it will affect our nationals there. What he said was that they tried to educate their nationals there through the media reports and other stuff, so that they will get to know that the real situation here, the real picture on the ground, so that they wouldn't go out there to harass Ghanaian nationals in China.
Right, thank you very much, Eric. We've been speaking to Eric Curtis Howard. The Chinese embassy earlier today held a press conference on the increasing a number of illegal Chinese miners. Now, what we did also was to get in touch with the Ghana Immigration Service on the way the embassy has alleged that some of their citizens were treated. But the service would rather not comment now, would comment later. And when they do, we would definitely bring you that story. Let's move on with some other stories. And in Ghana, desertification is a critical issue as it seriously threatens over 84,000 kilometers square, or 35% of the total land area in the country. Now, according to national statistics, a further 20,000 hectares of northern savanna lands are subjected to desertification each year. The worst affected areas in the savanna zones of the northern region, the upper west and upper east regions. The southern eastern coastal belt is also threatened. Now, unfavorable climatic conditions of long droughts and shortfall rain seasons in affected areas, coupled with unsustainable human activities such as indiscriminate bush burning, poor farming practices, forest removal, overgrazing, superstitious beliefs, and lack of awareness have been identified as the main causes of desertification in the country. Now, these combined are set to cause soil erosion, a loss of land fertility, deforestation, low agricultural yields, food and water scarcity, and loss of income opportunities in the local communities, leading to miserable conditions. Yesterday, the United Nations marked a day to combat desertification and drought, and in the light of that, we have brought in our studio George B.K. Awudi. He is coordinator for desertification with the Friends for the Earth Ghana. Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thank you very much.
But one thing I noticed is you added superstitious beliefs as one of the causes of desertification in the country. How's that?
One clear reason for desertification is unavailability of vegetation, and for that matter, trees in the affected areas.
Right.
So, in that regard, tree planting should be seen as one of the intervention activities to slow down the rate of desertification and the impact of the people. But in some of the communities where desertification is having the impact, there are beliefs that when you plant a tree and the tree gets taller, as tall as your height,
right,
you will die.
Really?
Yes.
Where in this country?
You will die. So these are superstitions around the savanna zones.
You know, I thought for anything, superstitious beliefs rather help us keep some of our vegetation, like we have the sacred groves.
Yeah.
This is new. Where in Ghana do we have such situations?
For instance, we did a research in Wologo in the West Mamprose district of the northern region, and this issue came up clearly. That superstitious beliefs prevent some people for vigorously engage in tree planting, because when you plant a tree and it grows to your height, you may die.
Now, does it come to you?
So let me also say that there are other beliefs that can promote mitigating desertification.
Desertification.
Yeah, so there are two ways of everything.
Of looking at it.
Good and bad.
Right. Now, let's stay in the north. In the upper west region, our correspondent tells us that they've not had their fair share of the rain. Does it come to you as a surprise?
I'm not surprised at all, because over the last 10 years or so, the globe is experiencing climate change.
Absolutely.
Yeah, climate change where there is fluctuation in how rainfall across the globe. In some areas where farmers are expecting the rains,
right,
the rains will not come. And when they are not expecting it, that is when the rains will come. These are ramifications of climate change that we are experiencing. And I'm also not surprised that Upper West is one of the key areas where desertification is having its toll on the people. And climate change serves to exacerbate desertification. So I'm not surprised at all. But it is not to say that because of the lack of the rainfall, farmers cannot go about their farming activities. There are other ways that farmers can go about their farming activities and other economic generating activities, even in times like this.
Right. Now, in the statement that you released, you made mention of a lack of commitment by from government towards curbing or let's just say curbing desertification. Yeah. How exactly do you mean?
Curbing, in fact, desertification has been with us for a very long time. And the nation is part of the global process that have recognized the urgent need to respond to the certification.
Right.
And Ghana is participating in that. In that direction, Ghana has prepared her national action program.
And so then why do you say that we are not given priority enough to combat?
The priority is in terms of how we are approaching the plans and programs to address the problems. One thing is clear, that there is very little attention to issues of addressing the certification holistically on the national agenda. So even though some actions are
being done,
they are not holistic.
So what should the government be doing? We're looking for a holistic way of combating the desertification. We are doing something.
Yeah.
It may be coming up with some results. What are we not doing?
How the various institutions that have a remit for addressing the problem should click on the field to find common solutions. While some institutions have their programs running in the same areas, their programs are working against programs of other decisions that are also trying to operate in the same areas.
How, for example?
For instance, currently, we have the Water Resources Commission trying to do work to ensure that there is an integrated management of water resources in the northern region. But at the same time, we have estate development going on in these areas.
But can you blame us? I want to own a home and I need a land space.
Yeah. So these estate developers go in, take over land, and scrape it. Even sources that are tributaries to some of the areas, once they fall under the estate developers enclave, these tributaries are wiped off completely. You hardly see an estate development area in Accra where you see the natural streams still flowing.
We're running out of time quickly, but one thing that it has become worrying is illegal mining activities. Now we're dealing with that. What should be done after we have been able to get these galamsey operators out of the area? The task force is working. Yes, we are getting people out of the area, but when we are done, the land space that has been deteriorated, the land space that we have left bare, what should we do with such land space? We need
to have programs. How we're going to tackle those problems, one after the other. Normally, in our country, we start a program in the next 5 years when the funds that are sought for it is gone. Right. That is the end of the issue. So we should have a program. What we're going to do in the next 2 years, after that, what next? So it should be short, medium, and long term. And I want to believe that what is happening now should not be the end itself. It is just a tip of addressing the problem. The long-term address will be what programs are we going to put in place to ensure that the degraded areas are rehabilitated, the communities are reorganized in a way that they will avert this kind of, because the people are living there. Another way to take our programs through is to have dependable source of finance to do that. That exactly is the problem of lack of attempting desertification issues in the north. We do not have a dependable budget line for tackling desertification problems year after year. Largely we rely on donor support, and when those supports are gone, that is the end, and any gains that may have been chopped over those supports are eroded quickly. So lack of national commitment to dependable and regular financial sources.
We're going to have to round it up here. We need the commitment, we need the money, and we need holistic programs as well.
Thank you.
Bottom line, to combat desertification. Thank you very much, George, for your time on the Midday Brief. But still to come, the National Health Insurance Capitation Scheme has chalked significant strides, and indeed they are embarking on a biometric registration exercise, a pilot program here in the country. When I return, we'll look at that. You're welcome back, and let's move on with the news. The National Health Insurance Capitation Scheme has chalked significant strides after a year of piloting in the Ashanti region. It includes the enrollment of a total of 1,817,648 as against 1,750,000 before its onset. The acting Ashanti Regional Manager of the National Health Insurance Authority, Bawa Nuruddin, said 44 facilities belonging to the Christian Health Association Ghana, 195 Ghana Health Service facilities, 164 private hospitals, and 2 Kosi Health facilities, which are the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and Anglo Gold Ashanti hospitals, have registered with the scheme. Now, he said the NHIA, in collaboration with the Department of Social Welfare, will also register 176,593 and leave beneficiaries in the region onto the scheme for free, and also to provide the poor with an unimpeded access to quality health care. Now, the National Health Insurance Authority has also commenced a pilot project to register new subscribers onto the NHIS biometrically. The exercise, which began yesterday, is expected to last for a month and will also cover membership renewals. The pilot exercise is undertaken in 2 districts, Ayawaso and La, in the Greater Accra region, and is also limited to a selected number of personnel from the Ghana Police Service and the Ghana Armed Forces only. The biometric registration exercise comes with instant issuance of National Health Insurance Scheme cards. It is expected that a successful pilot will be followed by a nationwide scale-up of the exercise. Now, healthcare service providers for this pilot are the 37 military and police hospitals in Accra. And with me here in the studio are 2 gentlemen. Selom Adonu, he is Communications Manager with the National Health Insurance Authority, and then Divine Nkrumah, who's raised issues with the biometric registration exercise, is with the PPP. Welcome, gentlemen, to the Midday Brief.
Thank you.
Now, Salom, we have an idea of exactly what the biometric registration exercise will be. So let me start with Divine. Exactly what are your issues with the exercise?
Thanks very much, and good afternoon to your viewers. The PPP, we are not happy, and we are highly disgusted by the hearing of the fact that the National Health Insurance Authority is going to embark on a nationwide biometric registration of their subscribers.
Why? It's a good thing, if you ask me.
Yes, if you read or listen to the reasons they outlined in their proposal, they said that the biometric registration will enable them eschew any form of duplication, and to also authenticate people, subscribers who will access public health services. And we are not saying it's a bad idea, but what we are saying is that in the first place, government officials and public servants or public service individuals, they have failed us as Ghanaians, because if you look at the system, it looks like there's a lack, or there are lapses in coordination between the public services, that is the decision makers, in terms of the people who make decisions in the various sectors, because we have spent huge sums of money to collect data through the National Identification Authority.
Right.
It also is also a biometric is biometric in nature, and so we expect that if the country has invested such huge sums of money in collecting that data, then the NHIA must first sort to get such information from the national.
Those who have collected already.
Yes, who have collected already, so that it will not be duplicated. It looks like we are duplicating our efforts, and the resources we have at our disposal as a country is very scanty, and so we cannot sit by passively and say that each institution, like the electoral commission,
should undertake such an exercise.
Yes, we expect that in other jurisdictions.
Right. Now let me find out from Selom. Is it possible that you can just go to the EC, you can go to the NIA and say, okay, you also have biometric data, so give it to us, and then we can just use it for our scheme?
Well, that's quite an interesting question, but I think that's a question he should answer, because it's quite an interesting point is raised, but what he doesn't know is the amount of work which has gone into this, the amount of collaborative efforts between the various bodies. I didn't hear them raise any issue when the Electoral Commission started the biometric exercise. I didn't also hear them raise any issue when the DVLA started or initiated or started their biometric exercise. But here they are speaking about the NHIA. Is it because the NHIA has become an easy target for everybody? Because the NHIA appears to be the nerve center of every household. It's a health matter. So when you want to score a lot of points, in this case politically, it's easy to target the NHIA. And when you target the NHIA, because it's an emotional issue, everybody listens and everybody is agitated and everybody feels that the people at the NHIA are sleeping. The important point is that I think we should find out what the status of the NIA has been. They've had issues. The NIA started a couple of years ago, and then we are just starting the biometric pilot. We just started yesterday, and then we're going to run the pilot for 1 month. We can't stay somewhere not doing anything because one institution or the other hasn't done its work. We have our job cut out for us. We have to still go ahead and do what we have to do. There are so many things happening. Right. About 9 million people are on the NHIA or are on the NHIS system, and we need to have a way of ensuring that we have data integrity even in our fold. We have to ensure that people who get to the hospitals or the health facilities to seek care are properly authenticated, so that the issues about fraud in claims, etc., we hear will become a thing of the past. So we are doing exactly what we've been mandated to do. Our job has been cut out for us, and we are tired of chasing other people to be doing their work. What is important is that we have the mandate from the government to do what we are doing, and that is exactly what we are doing, and that is what we will do.
And so what I want to find out from you also is, how will this help the service delivery at all in the country?
Well, a number of ways. For example, in the past, NHIA was issuing the ID cards to newly registered subscribers after 3 months of registration. What this new system is going to do is that if you register today, you get your card today. It started yesterday, and all the people who registered yesterday had their cards just at the point of registration, and that is good, because we talked about data duplication. Maybe this Accra. I'm in Accra. I register with the NHIA or NHIS in Accra. I, for some reason, moved to Kumasi or Tamale. I'm told to come back for the card in 3 months' time. Sometimes it's not even ready. I travel all the way from Tamale or Kumasi, come to Accra, it's not ready. I have to go back. The stress involved is so much. So sometimes the people go, they don't come out because they can still register there and wait for the 3 months and get their cards. So we realize that, over time, we realize that our data system, the integrity of our data system was not anything to write home about. We've tried our best to clean up the system as we speak, but we think that moving forward, it will not be useful or efficient to be making the same mistakes. So let's introduce this instant issuance of ID card. And why won't we issue instant ID cards when there's a new registration system ongoing? So we decided to add this instant issuance of ID cards to the biometric system. Let me talk about the biometric system for in a bit.
the biometric system, what it will do also is that it will ensure, or it will help us implement a more effective verification, regime at the point of service delivery. What happens is that when you go to the hospital or the health facility, your card is taken, your details are taken, and I mean all those things happen. But the biometric system, what to do is that when you put your thumb or your finger on it, every detail about you will come. So if I look like you can't take my card to the hospital and say that.
Is it something that's happening now?
It happens. I mean, you're in a crowd, so you may not really know. It happens so much in the rural areas. I look like you, we are sisters, maybe same gender, sister. I'm sick, you are not sick. I give you my card, you go do that. So
which is illegal.
Of course, but how do you detect it? The person at the health facility can't detect that, because as far as you know, sometimes the card is being faded. As far as you know, my name is ABC, and I say it the way it is on the card. Everything is set. It is me. You take care of me. I go. The NHI gets billed for it. Meanwhile, that person benefiting from the system shouldn't benefit. So the taxpayers' money is used to take care of those claims. NHI is saying that those times are past. There is now a new system which is biometric, which we can use to take care of that. So if you come, you put your thumb on it or your finger on it,
right,
every detail about you will come. And if you are not the one, you'll be found out. Right. Another point. So another point too is that this will ensure that there is what we call a transaction code.
Right.
When you are authenticated, a transaction code appears on your form. And that transaction code is reflected also at our back office. So when your claim is submitted, we will match it against that code there and realize that we are the same person. This will also prevent service providers who inflate claims. There have been instances where men have said to we've had instances where claims have been submitted for men who supposedly went through cesarean section. That cannot happen. A man cannot go through cesarean section. So all these things will become things of the past.
And I want us to also talk about the instance issuance of cards. But let me talk to Divine before then. You issued in your statement you made mention of the fact that this is expensive. In fact, you said that we can't use the scarce resources for this. It's almost a duplicate, like you said. But don't you think this is an important exercise we need to undergo? Who said development was cheap anyway?
First, before I answer this question, let me first address the earlier comments made by Selom.
Quickly,
with regards to the fact that he's hearing us for the first time about this biometric and the national education stuff. If you check online, before even elections, we were the first political party to come out to say that no, as a country, we don't need to waste our scanty resources on doing things that seek to suggest that we are wasting our monies on the same things that we keep doing over and over again. You see, if you look at the reasons given by Selom, I'm not sure they are bad reasons, and our comms is not with the NHIA as a body, but we are saying that there should be proper coordination between the agencies.
What will that proper coordination be? When you say proper coordination, what is that?
No, you see, like in other jurisdictions, like in other developed countries like US and UK and the rest, each citizen has a unique number. That's a national identification number that the person can easily be identified with. And by so doing, the person can also easily access any public services. So we expect that if all these agencies are coming out to, if the prison service now we have heard also, we are also going to start a biometric registration. If they all want to start doing their independent biometric registration, then it's like we are duplicating the whole exercise and
so what should we do? We should just let the process go and then people take claims for things they haven't.
No, you see, that's why we are suggesting or we are recommending.
You're suggesting that we should wait to the NHI, the NIA, National Education Authority, finishes their work before we can all move.
We are not just.
But that is not progress.
No. We are not saying we should wait for them. Their work is almost done, but it's just that
it's not true.
The government of the day, which has the oversight responsibility to ensure that the work being done by the NHI becomes relevant to the citizenry. The government has reneged on its responsibilities, and it's not doing. It's not making sure that the data they have collected from us, collated, is put to use. So we are saying that the governments that is the NDC government and John Mahama, they must ensure that the monies that we paid by the taxpayers, the huge monies that we invested in this NIA exercise.
NHI.
For the national identification,
right.
It shouldn't go waste. All other bodies can tap into it, get the data, and then from there they can proceed with whatever information or whatever exercise that they want to embark on. Because it can happen that.
Right. So, Salom, why can't we wait?
Well, if you are ready to wait, I mean, I don't know why. I don't know the import of this question really. I mean, we have a plan to move. There is something we want to do. We want to clean up our system. We want to ensure that the NHIA, as it is very efficient. When you mention NHIA somewhere, one of the first things people will tell you is that there is so much fraud in the system. It could be true, it could be false. As far as I'm concerned, that is really not the case. But that is a perception people have. And for example, let me tell you this: when NHI started real operations of the NHI started in 2005, claims payment was around 7.6 million. But as we speak, 2012, claims skyrocketed to about 740 million cedis.
Wow.
You can calculate that. And more people are joining the scheme. We must have a way of checking to ensure that the monies we pay from the NHIA is the right thing. And this is one of the ways, of ensuring that that happens.
So how much is this costing us, or how much will it cost, or how much do you anticipate that the whole exercise will cost us?
Well, I'm sure some figures, have been put together, but I'm not privy to those figures as we speak. I'll gladly tell you what it is really, but as we speak, I'm not privy to those figures. But what is important is that, is the exercise a good one? Are we going to realize our objectives? If yes, and I think the cost necessarily shouldn't be the issue. You said earlier that progress is not cheap. Development is quite expensive, and if you are ready to play with the big boys, we should be able to speak the language of the big boys.
And let's talk about the cards. If I register, I get my card instantly. Now, the worry of many people is that I wish you was going to be the same quality card, because when you look at the new one, the old one rather, there seems to be a lot going on the card. Do we think we can still make that instantly?
I don't know what you mean by. It seems there's a lot going on the card.
Like there seem to be a lot of security features on the old card. Is that a no?
Well, the new
this is what a new one will look like.
Yeah, the new card is better in several ways. The new card is better in several ways. It has a bigger storage, and one of the things the storage will do, or the card will do, which the NIA card may not necessarily do, is that this card has a storage facility in it, which will store some amount of your medical history. If you're in an emergency, you're unable to talk or do anything, any health facility or any health person who has the appropriate facility could pick your card and quickly access some minimum information on the card and be able to help you. Maybe for some reason you are asthmatic, etc., etc. You'll be able to be helped, appropriately.
I have very little time, but there's one more thing I want to know. With the Electoral Commission's biometric form, you mentioned earlier that if I go to the hospital with a new biometric card, that I could do some thumbprint and then my data just pops up. The problems we have with thumbs, and are we going to face the same problems, or something has been learned?
Of course, a lot has been learned from the Electoral Commission's case. And then Electoral Commissions was one of the very first done on a very large scale. I think we've learned a lot of lessons from the Electoral Commission's case. But ours is quite different. Ours is more detailed. And a number of things we are doing. Your 10 fingers are taken. So at any point, one of your fingers should work at any point.
And you just need one to verify.
One to verify. Just need one to verify. What is important is that the machine makes us know that this is your fourth finger or your fifth finger, and it matches. That is it. And this is health, actually. If it's not like the Electoral Commission, where maybe because you can't be verified, you will not vote. This is health. Right. If your card is valid, it's on it. If your card is valid, and for some reason your data cannot be picked, there are provisions for that. This is health. We can't let you die because of
I think we should probably invite you again and then look at this further.
Anyway, anytime. But maybe to address some of the issues he raised, for example, he says that in other jurisdictions...
Salom, I do not have time.
Well,
we'll talk about it. I wish I could give you last words, but we can. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time on the Midday Brief. We've been talking to Salom Adonu, his communications manager of the National Health Insurance Authority, and Divine Nkrumah, who raised issues with the new exercise ongoing as far as registration is concerned, is with the PPP. You're watching the Midday Brief. When I return, there's more news. You're welcome back. And moving on, Attorney General and Minister for Justice Marietta Brew Appear Upon seems to have started the process to retrieve the over 40 million euros from Waterville Holdings. The Attorney General has officially written to the Supreme Court Registry requesting for a copy of last Friday's ruling on the payment of the said amount to be retrieved for the state. The request came a day after Deputy Minister for Information and Media Relations Murtala Mohammed announced the government's commitment to retrieve the money from the company. So the Supreme Court, by unanimous decision, ruled in favor of former Attorney General Martin Amidu in the suit filed against Alfred Agbashi Woyome. Waterville Holdings and Austro Investment. According to the ruling, Waterville Holdings must refund the amount paid to them by the state. Now, Ghana's former President, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, has commended former Attorney General Martin Amidu for his campaign against the payment of questionable judgment debts to certain individuals and organizations. President Rawlings lamented the fact that Amidu faced ridicule from some of his compatriots and fought a lonely fight in this campaign. Amidu received the commendation when the former president delivered the keynote address at a conference on emerging democracies in Africa in Abuja Monday. The former president said one of the proudest assets of an African must be his sense of nationalism. Citizens, he said, must be taught to have pride in defending one's country against corruption. He noted that the former Attorney General, who at times faced serious ridicule from his compatriots, stood his ground against all odds and won the case for the country, adding, today he is ironically being touted as a hero. But did he have to fight a lonely fight in defense of his country, in defense of his country's meager resources? Now, it will be recalled that President Rawlings invited Martin Amidu and two others to light the perpetual flame at the 34th anniversary celebrations during the June 4 uprising earlier this month. Now, still on corruption, the Freedom Institute, a policy think tank, is threatening to expose officials at government and state institutions as well as other private organizations engaged in shady deals at the expense of the state. And according to its executive director, Andrew Awuni, the state loses as much as $500 million every 3 months from such corrupt acts and wants government to take up the fight against corruption as a national issue.
A 2-week undercover investigations by the Freedom Institute and ACE investigative journalist Anas Arimeyawanas uncovered some shady deals at the Tema port. The investigations revealed that some clearing agents and other officials ignore the laid-down inspection processes of containers and thereby give their own descriptions to containers on customs documentations to attract little or no tax at all.
You see, we have high-valued goods and we have low-valued goods. High-valued goods are goods that attract, in fact, their face value are high, and therefore 25% import duty as charged by our ports here will also be high. So what they simply do is describe the item, the container, as a low-valued goods.
Executive Director of the Freedom Institute, Andrew Awuni, is worried that corruption is deeply ingrained in the moral fiber of society and that the Institute will not hesitate to name and shame any public official caught defrauding the state.
Naming and shaming is something that we can do. It's within our bosom. We do the investigation, we name the institution or the individual, and we shame the person. But then we will share the information, as we will with this particular one. We will be sharing it with the government. And let those institutions, the institutions that are responsible, fortunately for us, and gladly also, the government is also ahead with their task force. So they will receive the information. We are going to insist that these people pay the monies they have taken away from Ghana.
The institute, he noted, will not relent in its efforts to take up the fight against corruption in the country, but called for the involvement of the media. The institute is expected to go public in the next 2 weeks with the names of the various companies and individuals engaged in shady deals at the Tema port during its 2 weeks investigations.
Now let's go to the Ashanti region, and the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has agreed to allow victims of the latest fire outbreak at the Kumasi Central Market to put up temporary structures for market activities. The Assembly has also allocated 200,000 Ghana cedis to assist the victims to put up these structures. At a news conference yesterday, the Kumasi Mayor Kojo Bonsu empathized with the traders whose wares and properties have been destroyed by the fire. Here's a report by Mahmoud Nuruddin Mohammed.
According to Kojo Bonsu, the Assembly would also present a report to the central government on the fire outbreak for possible assistance to the victims.
The KMA will not only allow the traders to rebuild their structures, but will support them with a global amount of 200,000 Ghana cedis as its widows might towards the resettling them. I wish to state that KMA this afternoon met with representatives of the traders to console them. This commitment has already been made to them, so it's a commitment and not just a vain pledge.
Kojo Bonsu added that plans are far advanced to modernize the Kumasi Central Market to prevent future fire outbreaks. In line with the Assembly's bylaws, the KMA would also ensure the market is closed at 6 p.m. on daily basis.
In line with the Assembly's bylaw, the KMA would ensure that the Central Market is closed to business by 6 p.m. daily. The KMA has embarked on massive fundings, the reports and recommendations of which will be made available to the media. The KMA greatly appreciates the timely intervention of the Ghana Fire Service, the Ghana Police Service, and all other stakeholders for their various roles in bringing the fire outbreak under control.
He cautioned the traders to avoid illegal electrical connections at the market.
So let's cross over now and speak with Joy News Erastus John Cole for the latest on the Kumasi fire. Hello, Erastus.
Yeah.
Now, we understand that the KMA boss has given the permission for some of these traders to put up their structures again. Tell us what is happening there.
Well, what is happening now is that the mayor of Kumasi, Mr. Kojo Bonsu, has been addressing the market women, and he has been telling them of government commitment towards ensuring that get back on their feet and continue to work. And so they have received that with quite a happy mood, and they're calling for strict look at the disbursement of the 200,000 cedis they are going to give to the traders. And Mr. Bonsu has also been saying that he is not going to give the money to any individual, but they are going to disperse the materials and distribute them to the traders.
And how would, if you've got that, how would this 200,000 Ghana cedis made available be shared?
No, the has not been available yet. And the mayor is saying that they are going to make it available through the procurement of certain materials that they need. And so they are not going to hand over the money to any individual, but they are going to buy materials, roofing sheets and others, and distribute them to the workers. If you want to take just a sound bite of what he's been saying so far, he is addressing the media now. And so some of the questions that have come up is the investment of the money, which he says he's not going to give it to any individual.
Right, but Erastus, he told them that they can rebuild the market themselves. Have any of the market traders started rebuilding?
In fact, there is brisk construction work, if I would say, or building work ongoing. The whole place has been turned into some construction site, and a lot of people, everybody's trying to build something. But let me just take a soundbite from the mayor of Kumasi right now. We're talking about the disbursement of the money. The market women are saying that if you hand it over to their leaders, you're not going to get it.
We are not going to hand over money to anybody. This money is our widows' fund to support them through the temporary construction we're talking about. Like they need roofing sheets, they need concrete, and they need to just buy cement. All the things that we use the money for. We're not going to give money to any individual for them to go and spend it.
What about the redevelopment of the market? Is it in time for them?
It's a long-term project. In about a year or 6 months to a year, the whole market will be done. So at the moment, this is a temporary structure. Temporary thing that we're doing. But the modernization of the market is on course.
Mr. Kojubon is the mayor of Kumasi.
Right, thank you very much, Erastus. Erastus Donko joined us from the Ashanti region. Let's quickly move on to some international news. And a report by the International Maritime Bureau and other seafarers groups says piracy off the coast of West Africa has now overtaken Somali piracy. This plus many more coming up in international briefs. Well, that's it for showbiz and also for this. Thanks for your company. My name is Kamini Nyamani Amano. Goodbye.